Why it's wrong to look at work-life balance as an achievement by Brian Lufkin, 2nd March 2021. Traditionally, we view reaching a good work-life balance as a hitting a goal, but it might be more of a moving target than we realize. Few topics have been so endlessly analyzed, glorified, and dissected as work-life balance. The quest to attain this somewhat nebulous state has dominated this discourse around careers for years, especially for working parents. The concept is often presented as something to achieve or a goal to reach. And once you've reached it, congratulations, you've made it. You're a successful human being of the 21st century. But the problem is that we often tell ourselves, I'm going to put in 8 hours worth of work, and then I'm going to put 8 hours worth of me time, which will include my families, my hobbies, my workout, my everything, says Annette Lechner, Clinical Associate Professor of Management at New York University. I don't think it is such a simple formula. And according to the new findings, it might not be. Some researchers are now encouraging us to stop thinking about work-life balance as an achievement that you either hit or don't. Instead, they suggested maybe more of a lifelong process, a continuous, never-ending exercise that requires vigilance, self-awareness, and timely tweaks, not a one-time fix. Forget reaching that golden goal. Researchers Lorna Lupu of ASSEC Business School in France and Mayra Ruiz Castro of the University of Roehampton, UK argue that work-life balance is a cycle, not an achievement. In the 2020 study, the researchers interviewed nearly 80 employees at two London-based firms, an equal number of men and women between the ages of 30 and 50, all with at least one dependent child, who work in middle or senior management roles. Although it's not like the respondents had a lot in common, here's what separated them. About 30% of the men and 50% of the women reported resisting working long hours. The other respondents, meanwhile, are working long hours because they thought that's what successful professionals should do. Once Lupo and Ruiz Castro looked at those who rejected the long hours, they found that those workers actually had strikingly similar strategies for maintaining their work-life balance. They employed more of the flexivity or the ability to reflect a question assumption in the name of self-awareness, and regularly took steps to adjust the things standing in the way of coveted work-life balance. Workers stopped and questioned their circumstances. Reflecting on their emotions and situations, then pinpointed their specific roadblocks to work-life balance. Taking stock and claiming this mental space to gain clarity of what they want for themselves is the first step towards identifying and implementing alternative ways of working and living, says Ruiz Castro. Lupo and Ruiz Castro identified 5 steps that respondents in the study who had better work-life balance used in their jobs. First, they paused to normalize beliefs such as I am professional so I should work, and asked themselves questions like what's currently causing me stress? Second, after identifying the cause, they zeroed on their resultant emotion. Did they feel angry, sad, energized? Third, they prioritized asking, is working long hours really worth cutting back on family time? For example, fourth, they considered the alternative. Is there anything at work that could be changed to accommodate their new priorities? And finally, they implemented changes like asking their supervisor for greater flexibility or deciding not to take on every project that comes their way. This 5 steps process is something anyone can adopt. Going through the steps and constantly checking in with yourself can help you shift and adapt your professional life to something that will better harmonize you with your personal one, the research suggests. Awareness of your emotional state is essential in order to determine the changes you want to make in your work and your life, says Lupu. New York University's Lechner agrees that finding that balance is an ongoing pursuit. It's not simply about dividing up the hours in your day between work, the gym, kids, chores, and meditations. Because even if you do make sure the hours are evenly split, if the underlying emotional sources of stress are still there, the kind of stress that the 5-step cycle could help identify, then the time you actually spend at home may not be enjoyable. We come home, and even though physically we are there, mentally we still may be processing the thing that happened at work. We are not present, she says. I very often think the discussion of work-life balance actually masks something else. What we call work-life balance is actually just a proxy to have a sense of fulfillment and contentment. Other steps to take. Of course, finding that balance probably shouldn't be something you have to do by yourself. Researchers Research by Erin Kelly, professor of work and organization studies at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, shows companies and managers can play a key role in creating a better environment for workers. For her book Overload: How Good Jobs Went Bad and What to Do About It, she and co-author Phyllis Moyne split more than 1,000 employees at Fortune 500 companies into two groups, one that worked under management redesign and one that continued working within the existing management structure. Under the management redesign, many steps were taken to ensure better work-life balance for workers and prevent burnout. Managers were regularly reminded to explicitly support their employees, for example, and workers were allowed to make changes like canceling 9:00 morning meetings. All of his all of this was done in the name of increasing job satisfaction and giving workers greater flexibility, and to assure workers that it was something management was committed to. Unsurprisingly, Kelly and Moen found that employees in the redesign group reported less stress, less burnout, were less likely to quit their jobs, and, over the next 4 years, were 40% less likely to quit than those who kept working under the old policies. Work-life balance is understood to be an individual response, so people think it's up to me to manage the craziness of my work life, says Kelly. But organizations need to examine the demands they're placing on employees. The root problem is not how the two pieces of work can come together. It's that we have unrealistic expectation of what we are asked to do on the work side. If your workplace is an environment where work-life balance is possible in the first place, any strides you attempt to make towards it on a personal level will be in vain. That's a conversation that appears to be gathering pace since this pandemic wrapped up the rule book for how we work as well as reshaped our working life. The new prevalence of remote works, flexible work, or even hybrid working models will likely all play important roles in how we balance our professional and personal lives going forward. And if it seems like finding that perfect balance remains elusive, the expert says that keeping some perspective can help. We are in an era of catastrophic job loss. The pandemic alone has slashed 255 million jobs worldwide, and more jobs could be lost in the next decade as AI advances and more of us digitize. For millions of people, work is about being able to put food on the table. Talking about work-life balance is a very privileged conversation, says Lechner. If we are reflecting, maybe we should also reflect on that.